I might get my little 3 or 4 people up in there, right? It was heavy on my mind, right? Because I always drive past the house, you know. I usually ask the people different, you know, the parents that live there and stuff like that. But I had just ran into the lady, the mother that's been there for the past, you know, many years, right? And because I was thinking about, because I always, like over the years, I never really paid attention to it. But because, you know, you be thinking people be joking or, you know, doing, you know, little different things, right? And you like, you don't really catch it like that sometimes or whatever. How you doing, Chanel? Hey, telling this story about how I don't even, and I always wondered if they used the kid because he was like crazy. He was crazy. He lived down the street from the house, right? And you know, he was just he would, you know what? He just didn't know how to control being whatever he was going through in life. He didn't know how to control it where the way he would lash out and different things like that. But hey, man, I feel like, you know, I should have done a lot of that, you know, even now, you know. But what do you do? It's like it's amazing. It's like wow, you know. You try to respect, but you know, I mean, hey, great example. I was saying to the folks, I was like, 50 years you know me. Have I ever did anything disrespectful? 50 years. And we ain't even got to talk about what how I was disrespected, right? That I still didn't even bite on and kind of like had did where I was like, you know, let me go ahead and just do this, you know, and stay on the right path my whole life, right? And I was like, I don't understand this. This is not making sense. So I was like, wow, you know, I say, you know, 50 years, but it ain't nothing that he could say that I ever did disrespectful all the way to today, you know, and that's just keeping it real. But what I was getting to is it was a kid down the street. He was like really mentally ill, you know, he went through a lot, right? His name was Joseph. And so what had happened was what had happened? Oh, the kid around the corner, like on the next street over, a couple streets over, um he had well, I don't know, but they found the kid in the attic, basically, you know, and they tracked him some kind of way. I don't know how that even transpired or what, you know, how he was in that house or why he would have been in that house. I don't even remember the story, right? But he had went away to like a mental place and for a while. I ended up seeing him again. He had a little Hyundai, you know. He was back in the neighborhood, you know, and then I never seen him no more again. Never. But he used that little speed racer car, you know what I mean? Little Hyundai. he was all into trying to fix it up and do his little thing. But he was all right. I mean, he seemed like, but he was kind of off. So it was like the way it was. It was sad, but it was like wow. So it was like I don't really know. That's what I want to say. So I was like, man, I always think about that house or what happened. What did he get twisted up? Did somebody just twist him in that, or? But did nothing happen to him? He didn't he only went to like a mental hospital for some years, some couple years or something, and he was back out. But I don't really remember because I remember he had a little Hyundai and he hooked it up. He had little rims on it, everything. Sometimes 30 seconds. Yeah, I ain't been on live because my phone. I haven't had no like real juice, and I haven't been trying to burn my juice because I mean I'm I basically been stuck. I basically just been stuck like Chuck. You feel me? I'm straight eating green beans and drinking water. Hey, I had to walk all the way back with a case of water to my car, you know what I mean? So, that's what's been going on, you know. That's what's been going on. Yeah. But yeah, but I was thinking about him. I was thinking about what happened and the whole but the whole thing is too, his name is Joseph. And that's my name. You feel me? So I always tripped on that, and I'm like I always wondered did he ever do it, or was it just something that somebody did just to, because I've noticed over the years of people talk about that, right? And they be thinking it's me and stuff, right? And I ain't got that ain't me. You know what I mean? Nah, that ain't me. You know what I mean? But people may say stuff in joking ways and stuff, and you're not really taking it like what they're saying. And sometimes they be crazy, you know. That's crazy. But that was a little story. It went 8 minutes, 9 minutes. But gotta pray for little Joseph for sure. I always wondered if he ever if he actually did that or what happened. Or I just remember they found the baby in the attic dead, man. That was crazy. But the stuff that I seen and been able to see now, it's like, man, you don't know what's what. But the crazy part was I just had ran into the lady that, you know, like that lives in that house. She was like, you know what? They never told us about it until after we had bought the house. I was like, what? I was like, dang, I never knew that. I was like, yeah, they never said nothing. But it's nice and big, and that was the first, basically, almost probably two-story house. That I was like, I remember I was talking to my folks. I was like, I always wondered, because everybody always work hard, everybody working, everybody really. like really connected and everything. And I'm like, why we not rich? You know what I mean? It like my cousins right up the hill is like they had the big house. We called it the castle, right? You know, and but they lost it. But I always be like, man, I used to be like, why we not rich? Because I just, as a kid, I just figured they were rich and we was poor. We wasn't poor. I mean, we had a swimming pool and we had a pool table and a nice little house. It wasn't no giant house though. That was what it was, and I just figured, you know, we had a clean house, all that type of stuff. But I was like, wow, it's a trip. But the way life go, it's a trip anyway. And the teaching and different understandings. Sometimes all that stuff be distractions anyway. If you got too much and everything is so loose, it's just a bunch of distraction, you know. That's what that is, basically. Because if you waking up in the morning focus on somebody else, I ain't never woke up in the morning focus on nobody else. But hey, it was a lot of mornings even as a kid where, it was what it was. And I'm like, wow, that I had to mentally always, stay focused to not and I seen it would come 50 different ways. That's why I always try to be a blessing to children and youngsters but psh, they can't say nothing about me directly. Whatever coming and telling you the wrong stories and all that. If you want to believe that, you got to believe it. Whatever you gonna believe. But I ain't rolling with. I ain't never did that when I was growing up. I don't care what if somebody tell me something about. I mean, no, no, no. I'm gonna take it in consideration now. I am gonna take it in consideration as far you know, like as far as like just nah, I ain't doing none of that. I'm if it don't sound right, I ain't gonna mess with it like that. It just depends. I got to with the donation bucket. I got to do it because if I don't start it, ain't nobody else gonna start it. Basically, that's all this. I already see what it is right now. I mean, because like trying to do my ministry and all that. I mean, I can't survive with nothing. I can't survive with playing a million games. Even if you got a million people playing games, you still gotta get that dough. I mean, shoot, they don't. They rather try they best to do a replica design than just buy the real thing. That's just how I'm figuring it out. I'm paying attention to it. I'm like, this is amazing. Oh, my Lord. It is what it is. You can't do nothing about it, man. You cannot do nothing about people being tricked out their own mind. You know, that's sad. You know, I don't play games with people. I don't bother people. I ain't disrespecting nobody, and I don't even know why. I I can walk through my whole neighborhood like, nah, you can't say I stole something from you. I done took something. I didn't heard that I didn't where my folks used to have low riders and all that. I was stealing stuff out of